Shohei Ohtani, Angel Hernandez.
Pitch clock.
Pitch clock, I'll be honest, don't hate it.
Okay.
Because I grew up in Jersey, had season tickets for the Yankees. You go to a Yankee Red Sox game, no matter what, whether it's like a 5-4 game that goes extra innings, whether it's 11-2, 2-0 game with great pitching, it goes like 4.5 hours, right?
Yeah.
So like I was at a Diamondbacks game earlier this year and we were in and out of there 2 hours, 15 minutes. And I'm like, that was pretty nice.
Yeah. No, it definitely is. I just think that, I mean, the commissioner he's my least favorite of all of like the big leagues. And I feel like NBA, like M. Silver's great. I can't stand Roger Goodell, actually. Goodell's
up and down. I saw he did an interview with Pat McAfee at the draft a couple weeks ago. I'm like, oh, he's actually a pretty cool guy.
Yeah, I guess I just see it from a player's perspective. So my husband played in the league for a long time, and what they do with the collective bargaining agreement, or what they brought to the table, it's just like they don't give a crap about their players. Roger Goodell negotiated lifetime health insurance for his family and will not grant it to the players.
Yeah.
And if that isn't, I mean, what else do we need to say?
Just an abuse of power.
Completely. So there are a lot of things about him that I think he deserves all the booze.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's almost like parents who like politic their way into like getting their kid on like varsity when they're like I grew up and there were people who were like my age when I was in 8th grade that were playing varsity baseball for the high school because their parents were like on the board of directors.
Don't even get me started about parents and kids sports, because I have a 10-year-old, and the way that parents act and the way that they, pardon my language, but show their ass and want to vicariously live through their children. I mean, it's literally like little Timmy is at the plate for them. You know, like it's like, whoa, like I could have made it. I could have done it.
The head coach is on third base and you just see the parent leaning over the fence. Hey, coach.
Like, I get it. My son's in travel baseball. And so it's a huge time. Like it's a huge investment with time. A lot of these teams, like these club teams, there's a really good, they're like, for USSA baseball, they're, I think, ranked number 1 in Arizona, maybe even in the Southwest region. And their dues are like almost $1,000 a month. And that's not including uniform. That's just coaching dues, not including, tournament fees. But you see some of these parents and it's embarrassing.
Yep.
It's embarrassing. I understand wanting to put your kid in the best situation possible, giving them all the tools, giving them all the resources, whatever you have at your disposal to help your child succeed. But like, youth sports should be about character development. Winning is great and winning is fun, right? And I would even say important. Mm-hmm. But that's not why your kids should be in youth sports. Mm-hmm. Your kids are in youth sports to learn about life, to learn about how to get past, adversity, to how to get back up and step up to the plate again and come back the next day after you just took a brutal loss. It's about learning how to be coachable and how to work with your peers. And I think parents today just completely miss that. Mm-hmm. Completely miss that. Mm-hmm. And then to get back to pitching, and since we're talking about baseball, like what parents are having their kids do, you see more and more junior hires and high schoolers with Tommy John, which is crazy. Like, why are you sending your 10-year-old out there to pitch 180 pitches in a weekend? Like, that's ridiculous. They have limits in these leagues for a reason. Yep. And when coaches abuse that and parents are just like, just send them out there. Like, who are you doing that for?
Yep.
What is it for? Because it's not helping your kid. It's not helping the game.
Yep. I had a buddy who, out of anybody that I played with, probably because everybody wants to be a pro baseball player when they grow up. I was probably my first dream too. But this kid had like absolute potential to do it. Had Tommy John surgery twice before he was a sophomore in high school. And then he was just like all over the place, just throwing his arm out. His dad was like all up.
Yeah.
In everybody's business all the time. Like, how old are your kids?
So my son,
baseball?
he's 10. My son's
So it's still at a point where it should be fun, right?
And
but also, I remember like when I was 10, what was that, 09, 2010 era, where it's like that stuff like didn't even matter. There was no scouts at these games when we were young kids. It wasn't until like high school where you're like, okay, this
Max
is
prep
now it's a business.
Yeah.
Now it's like, okay, this really isn't fun anymore for the people that weren't going to the next level. I was one of those guys that wasn't going to the next level. But it, like some people are just playing for themselves at that point as opposed to showing up and it being like a fun collective team thing. I feel like when you're 10, 11, 12 years old, like you're making like friends that hopefully you'll have for life, playing baseball, just enjoying yourself, whether that's rec, travel league, club, all these tournaments are supposed to be a blast, you know?
Absolutely. And I think, I mean, with social media, right, and the way everything now has become a financial opportunity, I think that's really where it changed, like around that time. And I also think that people know that there's money to be made.
Yeah.
There's a lot of money to be made in youth sports because of these crazy parents.
Yeah.
You know, and another thing that I think parents are missing today is, or where they're missing the mark, is on specialization. In my opinion, kids should be working on becoming athletic, well-rounded. Go play basketball, even if it isn't the top AAU team. Go play, you know, flag football or tackle football. Go pick up a tennis racket. Go outside and play basketball. Do things that are going to help you develop as an athlete.
Yep.
And then as you get older, go work on specialization, right? Once you get to that level where, okay, now maybe this is where you should specialize. And I just think people are, you know, it's like we have to be at baseball 7 days a week, or we have to, you know, it's crazy.
It's like hustle culture in the minds of 10-year-olds.
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
sucks.
And it's fueled by their parents.
Yep.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And people who know that, you know, they can charge people $1,000 a month to coach their kid.
Mm-hmm. All comes back to the business side of it, which is nuts.
It is.
I feel like we see a lot of that, like not just in sports, but in general, to get into like influencing and stuff with people on social media with big platforms.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's people who have genuine influence over people for the right reasons. And then I'm seeing a lot of people who have like just big brands.
Yeah.
Regardless of how they got those big brands, and they don't necessarily have like their customer in mind. It's more so like what I can do for themselves.
It's ego.
And I feel like there's just a lot of it out here, especially in like Arizona, Vegas, LA, West Coast.
Yeah.
I've noticed a lot of it. And even like doing like a podcast and like making content and stuff, you get to know some of these people. It's like some people are on their phones until you hit record versus people who genuinely want to get to know you.
Right.
But those people, for whatever reason, despite the way they act, still have that influence.
Yeah. Well, and I think that the social media landscape has really changed a lot in the last, I think since like the pandemic, since COVID, and everyone just wanted to start podcasting and, you know, and I get it. Like I do it in my spare time. It's fun. I love to talk. So why not, you know? But to your point, there are people who are just, I feel like they do it for the wrong reasons, right? And like we're seeing it with celebrities even. Like I feel like people are starting to want to tune out.
Yeah.
Like the general population. Like people understand when it's not authentic.
Yep.
People understand when, and I get it, you have to make your money, right? You need to, there's certain products you want to push, there's certain brands, but it's so saturated.
Yep.
It's so saturated and it's not authentic.
Not a lot of people know how to do it, too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that get into it, buy the studio space, get the equipment, and they don't know how to talk on camera.
Right.
And they're like, how do you know how to do it? I'm like, I went to school for this. I've wanted this since I was 5 years old. You know, like there's the people that like have wanted it versus the people that just see the money in it and want to take a chance and see if it works.
Yeah. And I mean, like with anything though, you know, I feel like the cream always rises to the crop. So they're good.
And then there's the people who just have fun. Like I feel like you guys have fun with your show.
Totally.
Just in the episodes I watched, it's just like, all right, you guys are just hopping on. You guys are lifelong friends.
Exactly.
Which is a lot of fun.
We're like, we might as well film our phone conversations at this point and bring in, you know, people who want to have interesting conversations and something to teach, something to share about. But for the most part, it's really just about a good connection and having fun.
Have you enjoyed the process of it?
I have. So I was kind of brought on as just a plus one. It wasn't anything that I really pushed, but I've loved it. And like I said, I'll put a mic in front of my face and I don't know. We'll
just talk about anything.
Yeah. pitching, social media, The Bachelor.
Did you watch this season of The Bachelor?
I didn't. I haven't
Really?
actually. No.
This was the one I actually thought, like, this is a cool dude.
Okay.
Not toxic in any way. I mean, the girls, of course,
but
all over the place. But
I feel like that has been the recipe, though. You know, like, I feel like that's why they're in season 25 or 28 or whatever it is, because it's people want to see the meltdown. People want to see this ugly side, maybe not ugly side, but no one tunes in for like
normalcy.
That's rainbows and butterflies and like, wow, they seem like a really mentally stable person. Like, that's not.
Oh, I'm watching it with my roommates. I'm like, oh, this guy's a good dude. They're just like, oh, whatever. It's like, this is what you want in a guy.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But I guess it's not good TV.
It's not good TV. And they liquor them up. I mean, you'll see in some of these rose ceremonies, in the background, like, the sun is coming up. They're filming at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I'm sorry, but, like, that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
Like,
everyone's just on
Don't
edge.
get me drinking until 3 a.m. and trying to talk about my feelings because.
And then you got to stay up, too. It's
exactly.
like, my body's completely shut down.
Yeah, they know exactly what they're doing.
And then there's a few of them that are getting sent home, too, that are just devastated.
Yeah, which is like, it's literally been 2 weeks.
I remember when it first started this year, back in, like, what was it, January, when they
first aired
it. I had reached out to, like, every girl that was on the show to get them on a podcast. And the first 3 that responded were like, we're down whenever. Like, we'll make it happen. And then I watched the pilot, and all 3 of those girls were gone in the first episode. I'm like, that's why you're down.
Exactly.
There's no NDA or anything.
Right.
But
right.
It's fun because there's so many different layers to it of people that are just like, this is the type of, like, oh, he's amazing, versus like people are like, I don't think he's that cool.
Right.
I'm very logical in the sense of like, I think I know what makes up a good human being,
right?
You know, where I'm like, I don't really like that quality.
Yeah, that's a red
like,
flag.
oh no, they're feisty. They got a great personality. I'm like, no, that's pretty toxic. that's not what you want in a potential partner, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. Now I want to go back and binge watch every episode. Where are they at?
I want to say Hulu.
Okay.
I think Hulu.
Okay.
Though every streaming service is cracking down on like what's really your account or if it's like your friend's account.
I know.
I can't watch Netflix anymore.
It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
I mean, I feel like it's not ridiculous. I feel like that's probably a good thing, but it hurts because everybody borrows their friends' accounts.
And they know what they're doing. But really, like, I mean, I don't know. My brother and I share an account, and he was like, I can't, like, then you have to approve my location.
I've had an MLB.TV account that is owned by my friend's cousin's friend, who I've never met in person before, but I've had it for almost 10 years.
Perfect.
And I'm like, did he update the password? I'm going to need that new password. He's like, yeah.
Can you text your uncle?
It's like, hey, my buddy Joe's coming down. I'm like, who's Joe? He's like, you know that account that you've had for 10 years? I'm like, oh, that's him. I finally get to meet him. That's cool.
Yeah. Hey, if someone's going to give it to you, why not?
Yeah, I know. What else were we going to talk about? The difference. All right. 5 out of 10 people actually answer this when I ask women this question. How old are you?
37.
Okay. Is that a thing where it's like you're not allowed to ask someone's age?
I don't care.
Okay.
I don't mind. I see aging as a blessing. I understand. I mean, some people might start to feel sensitive about it, whether it's like maybe they're happy with where they're at in life, or they feel like, like, oh, these things haven't lined up and I'm at this age already. But for me, it's like, I don't know. I see it as a blessing. And I've had a lot of friends pass, and you see, like, people get sick every day. Things happen.
Yeah.
I say, I'm 37. Like, yeah, I'm approaching.
Like, there's no real actual recipe for life and how it should go.
No.
Which is crazy because, like, you're born and raised. If you're born, like, your kids have a mom and dad, a house. Like, I was raised with a mom and dad, great upbringing. It's like you think, like, okay, by the time you're in, because I'm 25, by the time you're in your late 20s or so, you should be married. You should be thinking about kids. You should have this job. You should be at this. And it's like, that's not really how life actually works. Because there are other people who grew up with none of that, who are just kind of, some people never amount to anything that they've ever wanted, and that's just how life turned out. Some people are like multi-millionaire entrepreneurs by 15, and you're just like, how did that happen? That's not the recipe that I was told growing up. Of how things
why didn't I
work.
get that recipe?
Yeah, like, I have friends, like, because you being 37, I'm 25. 25 is like, I'm starting to realize it's just like you could be at any stage in life and it's perfectly okay. Like there's people who are still living at home and have no idea what they want in life, and that's okay. There's people like me who kind of figured out what they wanted early on, but also are still like very much grinding to make it. Then there's people who have figured it out. Like I have a friend who just turned 24. He's married. He's got a kid on the way. He's has $1 million tech company that's working out just fine. And I'm like, that's okay too. You know?
Yeah, I think like in high school, we're all on the same path, right? Because we're all doing the same things. And then at 18 is kind of where that first like breakaway, right? Like some people go to college, some don't.
Yeah.
And then until you're like 22, 21, 22, most people are still in college or still pursuing some sort of education. And then there's like another kind of break in the direction that people go. And so 25, I feel like a lot of people are getting their footing and kind of at least trying to head in a direction with some direction. But yeah, then one day you wake up and you're 35 and you're like, huh.
What happened?
Yeah.
It came quick.
Yeah, it came real quick. 37 to me when I was 17 was like, oh, you're old.
It's over. Yeah.
You're old. And I have friends who literally are making career changes. Most of my girlfriends, I have a lot of married friends, but I have a lot of girlfriends from high school who aren't married and don't have kids and they love their life. And that's great, you know? So I don't know. I think it's hard. You can't compare what you're doing to where someone else is.
Yeah.
Everyone's on a different path. And I think that's the big difference between like your 20s and your 30s is you just gotta stay focused on what you want.
Yep. Don't get knocked down. Don't get discouraged,
Well,
right?
if you do, you gotta get up.
Your stones are coming no matter what. Right?
They are.
I had a kidney stone a couple of weeks ago. I was not expecting that.
No.
Yeah.
Did you end up in the hospital?
Yeah, I was in the hospital for 3 days.
I hear they're
terrible.
Like,
and the thing, I'm like an avid steak eater, just like red meat 4 or 5 times a week. And I had so many friends for years tell me like, dude, you're going to get a kidney stone. You're going to get this. I'm like, I don't think so. I feel like I would have gotten it by now.
I'm good.
And then Judgment Day finally came. And I remember I'm like, well, I still got to get content out.
Oh,
so I just grabbed my phone when like nobody was there, and I'm just like making like baseball clips and like talking to myself in the camera, even though I'm in severe pain, just trying to make it happen.
Yeah.
So it's like when life knocks you down, you still got to like fight back and get up. And
that's also part of being an entrepreneur. I think a lot of people, it sounds sexy and they're like, yeah, I want to go do that. And then you're in a crisis or it's a holiday and like, it's still all on you. Mm-hmm. You know, like you gotta find a way. You gotta make it happen.
I feel like the failure stories are the best stories though.
Oh,
you can look back.
Absolutely. Redemption and just, I think everyone wants to root for someone who figures it out, right? Mm-hmm. Most people don't like the story where it's just like, oh, everything was always perfect. And then
you have like no grit. You have like no fire inside of you. Absolutely. That happens, right?
Yeah, no, I definitely think that I've never spoken to an entrepreneur or listened to an entrepreneur story where they didn't at least have, you know, a failed brand or a failed company or an idea that just did not take off the way they wanted. Maybe they raised a ton of money. Yep. They didn't make the right pivot. They didn't pivot. I mean, when people talk about failure, it's like failure is when you continue to do the same thing over and over again and it doesn't yield positive results. Like everyone's going to go through things that, you know, maybe wasn't the goal, but it's how you pivot and how you learn from that.
Yep.
Like that's success.
Yep.
Can I go through this situation? I raised all this money, this capital, and it wasn't what the idea just did not pan out. Okay, how do I pivot? Like it might seem like a failure, but the lessons you learn from that, that's like the real nugget. That's what it's about.
Like you just really have to like when you're feeling that sting, it's like you just gotta know like, okay, this is a good thing. Lean into it.
Lean in and how do I make it better?
I start my morning every day with a 5-mile run. Hate it. Hate doing it every single day.
Every day.
But by the end of it, it's like you feel great. You feel accomplished. The what are they, endorphins? Is that what they call them?
Yeah.
Or running.
Yeah.
Step into a cold plunge too. Right. It's like feel amazing.
Well, I mean, it's like
uncomfortable, but
But it's that process again of like, when they say like every morning make your bed.
Yep.
You know, it's like you gotta rip the Band-Aid. You gotta do, if you do the easy things and you lean into the work, I mean, for you, it's running 5 miles. You dread it, right?
Terrible.
But like,
puke half the time.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my.
I don't feel any, like every time I start running, I'm like, I don't think I'm getting better, but we're just going to do it.
But you have to be. Have you ever run like a 5K or a half marathon?
5K, I want to run. I told my my family members up in Boston, Massachusetts that I'd run the Boston Marathon. I gave them my word on that when I was like 13. Okay. No idea what I was potentially getting into. I've always
wanted to. I ran, but I wasn't, distance is not my thing. I've always wanted to run a marathon.
Yep.
I'm down. Content.
We do it.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Is there any like big marathon out here? Or like Vegas, or I feel like Vegas has to have one.
There's like a rock and roll marathon. There has to be. There's a rock and roll marathon. I know in the Bay Area, which is where I'm from, there's like a 10K. I think it's a half marathon. It has to be. There has to be. I know Pat's Run isn't a long one.
I feel like that's probably the big one.
We have
in the Phoenix area for sure.
Yeah.
I remember I ran a 10K through the Giants spring training facility in Scottsdale.
Okay.
It was like through their outfield and then onto the streets. And I think I was like a freshman in college. And I'm like, why am I doing this? This is brutal. At least I got to see the stadium. Like, I guess that's why I thought. I'm like,
yeah. Run. I don't know. I think there's something about, for me, it's like no training. I'll just go into something blind, just like, yep. Because I have that mentality of like, I can do this.
Just don't think about it.
Yeah,
it's just
exactly.
like if you just start, you're committed to it.
You're committed.
You just do it.
Okay.
And it's going to suck in the process.
And maybe you stop and you walk for like half a mile, but you're going to finish. And then to your point, like it's going to be over and you're going to be glad you did it.
Those big ones have like photographers all over the place too. And they'll like send you pictures. I had a friend do one in Nashville a couple weeks ago, and she puked 4 times throughout the process, and 4 out of the 10 pictures they sent her were of her like in the back puking. Perfect. I'm like, oh, that's great. Perfect. They were doing their job.
I feel like people always talk about like shitting themselves when they run a marathon.
I've never gotten that bad before.
No, that would be the only reason why I wouldn't want to do it. I'm like, okay, you have to make sure that you're like eating the right things.
Yeah, because that's got to come from like, oh, you just downed a pizza before you started, right?
I don't know. I mean,
or is it like the pain that bad?
I think I don't know what it is. We should probably do more research on this, but
I understand
like a common
puking.
thing. Puking, I for sure understand. But it's like a pretty common thing. Like my friends who like have done marathons all say that like you're gonna see people who every time you run a marathon, there's gonna be somebody.
It's just disgusting.
I can't, like, there's porta potties along the way. Like, but I guess if you're on like a 1 or 2 mile stretch and you're just
yep.
shaking everything.
Actually, I have a buddy who's gonna be here this week. He's in the Air Force, and he'll go on like 15-mile, 20-mile runs all the time just because he loves it. And he's just like one of those endurance freaks. But even he has stories like that where he's just like, yeah, you just got to go through it. And I'm just like, I couldn't imagine, dude.
No.
Like, you've seen me run. It's like I puke every single time we run together.
Yeah.
You got to stop.
I'm like getting off of the course and I'm finding a restroom. Like, there's no way I'm just going to like, got to make my time for my no way. Mm-hmm. No way. Not happening.
It's great to feel in great shape afterwards, but to the point where like you're almost killing yourself doing it.
Yeah.
That ain't fun.
No, I'm definitely going to have to like wrap my knees too. Like for sure. I'm gonna, like, once I cross that finish line, she needs a wheelchair.
So my buddy, Air Force endurance freak, his girlfriend, who we've known forever, is like the exact opposite of like, I hate running, I hate exercising, and she's like starting to like, because she lives like 2 minutes from me. Okay. And it's just like 4 a.m. Hey, you want to go on like a 10-mile jog? I'm like, no, I don't. Like, who am I talking to?
She's coming around.
Yeah. It's amazing. Cool. Like, how long have you been married?
Oh my gosh. 9 years.
Too long?
Yeah. Yeah.
Almost a decade?
Yep.
Do you feel like you guys have like certain like tendencies that neither of you had going into the relationship where it's like, oh my God, like I'm a lot like her, he's a lot like me?
I think he's become more emotionally aware and I have become more compartmentalized.
Yep.
So we're like,
That's good. That's honestly the best balance.
yeah, we're like flip-flopping now. It's like we used to be one way, now I'm the complete opposite. But in terms of like hobbies, I would say, so I've recently taken up golf, not because I'm great, but I guess no one's really great at golf. And he's just like, meh. So I would say no, actually. Like we kind of like, he's really big into hunting. I personally, like, I'm not a huge fan of it. Like, I don't want to go and sit in a duck blind.
Not talk,
like,
just be quiet.
Yeah, I can sit and not talk and be quiet, but like not in like a pond or a lake or like out in the,
This is so soothing.
Yeah, that's exactly.
There goes the deer running away.
Jesus Christ, Heather. Yeah, that's not for me. And like the shooting range, actually, when we go to the shooting range, if I think about it as sport, I'm fine. And if I'm like, okay, I got to hit the target. But otherwise, it's kind of unnerving to me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like being that close in proximity to people with like high-powered mags. It is unnerving. Mm-hmm. And he's always like, what? If anything happens to someone else? And I'm like, I just don't want to be there if something happens.
Yeah, the 1% chance.
Yeah, I get it. Very unlikely. And I don't think you really hear about it often. I don't think it happens very often. But I don't know. Like, weapons are just, they're so kind of scary.
And that's usually what happens, like, the one day you do go. It's like that 1% pops up, and then you never want to do it again.
Complete psychomaniacs. Yeah, so he's into hunting, and he, I don't know, he played sports his whole life. So he's just kind of like, I don't know, I just want to sit and relax and do calm things. Whereas I'm the one who's like, do you know that the game's on? Or the Warriors are in town, we need to go to the game. Or this playoff game, whatever. He's just like, I don't.
I mean, you get to a point where you've done it for so long and you're like, no outcome, nothing's going to surprise me, nothing's going to entertain me at this point.
And I think you just follow players too. Like, you kind of, once you're on that side of things, you're like, okay, I mean, rarely do you find like a Larry Fitzgerald who spends their entire, like a Ben Roethlisberger who spends their entire career with one franchise and one team. And so I think once you've played and you understand the business side of sports, you find players that you like, maybe storylines for a certain season. But yeah, so I think I'm like the sports junkie, talk a lot, try new things, and he's like, I just want to kick back and relax.
Did you play sports?
In high school. No,
that counts.
Yeah, not collegiately. I danced. I danced professionally, so not a stripper.
I was able to pick up on
that. But yeah, no, I didn't play. I should have. I had the opportunity to run track and thought I wanted to do marketing and do something else. So I chose to go to school for marketing, but
it all worked out.
Yeah, it all worked out.
You always go back to it too. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Age is just a number.
Right. Although I don't think I'd be running collegiate track at 37 anywhere. So
yeah. No, I don't think so.
No.
That's a tough one too.
I know. Well, there are a lot of athletes in their mid-20s, I feel like, that are still like in college, right? Like that one guy that just got drafted.
Right.
What's his name? He's behind, I think he's with the Vikings.
JJ McCarthy.
Yeah.
JJ McCarthy. He's a big Minnesota guy.
Okay, yeah. So Kirk Cousins, right? Yeah. So everyone's like, by the time Kirk Cousins' contract's up, this dude will be starting for the first time at 28.
Yep.
That like there was a lot of, people were talking about the Vikings and if they kind of.
Oh, that's the Falcons.
Falcons, that's who it is.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. We'll scratch that. The Falcons. He's 28 years old. Like he's going to be as a quarterback. Like, that's crazy.
That's probably the most eye-opening draft pick we've seen in a long time.
Well, and the footage of it with the owner coming downstairs, like.
But also, was everybody saying that he was yelling at?
I don't think he was either.
I think he was just like, "Hey, man, nice to see you.
Yeah.
Haven't seen you yet today." Like, I don't think he was just, "Oh, he's getting reamed by his owner right now." I'm like, I don't think he's.
I agree. I don't think so either. There's so much that goes into those decisions and the extent of work and the draft board. Like, they knew what they were doing. They have a plan, and I definitely don't think that exchange is what the media kind of ran with.
No. At this point, you just got to think they did it for the buzz. It gets people talking. It's going to drive up ticket sales in Atlanta, and
Yeah.
Whatever happens, happens too.
Who do you think is going to be like an outlier next year? Like, who do you think is really going to surprise the people in the NFL?
I grew up a New York Jets fan, so I'm really hoping Aaron Rodgers stays healthy. Like, really hoping. Like, that was the ultimate New York Jet thing to happen.
Absolutely.
4 snaps into his Jets career. When, like, you have, like, 4 or 5, like, Sunday night football games lined up, you're on prime time, finally the Jets are going to be competitive.
Right.
And then he tears his Achilles 4 snaps into his career.
Like
and then he wanted to come back just to prove that he can...
Right.
That he could play towards the end of the season when they were already like 4-8.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even worth it.
No, just take the L.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, let's like secure a better draft spot.
And I think I speak on behalf of a lot of Jets fans that no one believed in Zach Wilson.
Yeah, that was rough. That was
like we've shuffled through some really up and down quarterback decisions through the years. All the way back to Mark Sanchez, who had 2 great years and then really didn't do anything else. We traded for Tim Tebow, which was like, who, why?
I know.
At the time, I was kind of excited. I'm like, okay,
and then they
Tebow mania, and then he never played.
No.
Geno Smith didn't really do anything for us. He was supposed to be a big deal.
So do you think it's like front office, or do you think it's like, what do you think is going on there? Because we're talking about years.
Yeah.
Like years.
Well, it's the equivalent of like the Cubs for 108 years. They couldn't figure out their shit before they finally did. Yeah, it's got to be front office. I don't like Woody Johnson. I don't think a lot of people like Woody Johnson. I loved Rex Ryan when he was the head coach. Then who was it? It was Todd Bowles after him.
Todd Bowles is a great coach.
Todd Bowles is
He's
still
a great coach.
Is he still in Tampa?
Yeah, I think so.
He's a great coach.
Yeah.
You need to bring in someone to change the culture entirely. I think it starts with the front office because they are the Cubs of the NFL. They won a Super Bowl the first few years, and then I think it was Super Bowl 3 they won, and that was it.
Yeah, I think Houston is probably going to win a Super Bowl before.
Yep.
They look good though.
Whatever. I'm at a point. So here's, like I said, I grew up a Jets fan. I converted to being a Cowboys fan when I was in high school.
That is the cardinal.
And my
the worst.
And my reasoning to justify it was like, well, they're just as heartbreaking, but at least they've got real talent. They could really go. And sure enough, it was in that era where like Tony Romo was getting hurt, DeMarco Murray left, but then we drafted for Zeke, and then Dak took over for Tony because Tony like broke his back again, and then they went on like that 13-3 run.
Right.
And then then there was like the Dez catch, which was heartbreaking. The next year it was Aaron Rodgers had like this insane run in the final 13 seconds of the game for Mason Crosby to kick a field goal.
And
then a few years ago, Dak ran down the middle of the field with no timeouts left against San Francisco, and they ran out of time before they could even.
Brutal.
I'm like, what's going? Like this
Brutal.
is. I'm like, I guess I earned this.
Right.
This is what happens when you leave. But the Jets haven't been any better anyways. So.
Yeah. So just two disappointing teams.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you stay over there with Dallas and the Jets. And don't touch my Niners. Don't touch my Raiders.
Yeah. Well, the Raiders, they'll do it to themselves.
We're always going to be. Bless it.
Niners too. What a rough Super Bowl.
Don't even get me started on the second.
One of my best friends, diehard Niners fans, wearing his McCaffrey jersey, like, and I'm like, I don't think this is going to end the way. I think that game till at least the final play, because if Travis Kelce caught that game-winning touchdown in overtime, I'm like, that entire thing was scripted.
Yeah,
had to be.
I feel a certain type of way about the NFL being scripted and that notion, like people thinking that things are scripted. I think I've seen the amount of work that goes in. I have a hard time believing that these men who put everything on the line, their family, their health, their livelihood, a lifetime's worth of work and preparation to sign off on missing the play or, not getting to the first down marker or being okay with this like script that apparently gets presented. It's it's a hard one to buy.
Yeah.
It's a hard one to buy for me.
It's literally people who aren't involved in it that are just like,
Yeah.
Vegas is running everything.
Everything. Well, okay, I will say this. I do think that from a referee standpoint,
Yeah, maybe.
like maybe there are things they go. I mean, do you remember that one? Was it the New Orleans game? It was the New Orleans Super Bowl, I want to say a few years back, where it was just like some of the worst calls.
Yeah.
Like, how are they missing?
Like blatantly.
Like just
Like you're
awful.
blind.
Like awful. Like 3 or 4 calls in the last 2 minutes of the game that would have just changed everything.
Yeah.
Those ones, okay.
But wasn't there it was like Packers Seahawks game? It was like a game-winning touchdown. It was either a game-winning touchdown that was overruled as an interception because there was like so many people going up for the ball and you couldn't really see it, or it was the other way where it was an interception, then they ruled it a game-winning touchdown. But like everybody was just raving about it, being like, "This was terrible. That was a bad call."
I feel like there's like a game every season where it's just like, this was really like with the technology that we have, and with 3 or 4 refs, whatever, 5. I don't even know how many officials are on the
I don't
field.
know.
Okay,
No clue.
Like this should not be happening.
Yep.
Like we have to do better.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in those situations, those present as head scratchers. Like, what were they watching? Because that's not what anyone else saw. Mm-hmm. And then they have time to like get together and if it's inside of 2 minutes, like go upstairs. Sorry, not buying it.
It is tough too because we are seeing it at the best angles on television where they're actually on the field and like have to make a split call in a split second.
Difficult,
right?
Very difficult.
However, in baseball with Angel Hernandez, I feel like you have to look back at the film every now and then and be like, oh, I understand why people don't like me.
It's
like blatantly bad.
It's so bad. I mean, it's really bad. It's painful to watch. And
I'll be honest, I thought he got suspended a few years ago. I guess I was completely wrong. I thought they outed him.
Yeah, no, well, he's sued. He's sued twice, and he's backed by the umpire union.
Yep.
And I just think that, personally, my opinion is like, I think they just gotta, the MLB just needs to take the L and take what would come with it, and he just needs to go. But they don't.
There's no backbone.
No.
It ain't Bud Selig's Major League Baseball anymore.
Yeah,
I don't know if he'd do anything. Was Bud Selig great? I was a kid when he was. I wasn't too focused on the business side of baseball.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he was better than what they have today.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like everyone pretty much agrees that like he's not doing a great job.
No.
But I don't know. Like we said, the pitch clock.
It's got its ups and downs. Why don't you like the pitch clock?
I just feel like I like what it's done for the game. I like that it sped the game up, but I think that it's putting additional pressure on pitchers.
Yeah.
I don't know. What I would be a huge advocate for is the challenge rule in baseball. So like when you have some of these horrendous, full count call it
so for balls and strikes, a challenge.
Yeah. So like I think they presented it, and obviously it would have to come with like a max because you can't just have managers walking out there like challenging every single call. But I think that would benefit the game, give someone 3 chances, like how coaches in the NFL can, and even in the NBA, you have a challenge, and if you lose your challenge, then it's like timeout, or you lose your next challenge. I think that the MLB would really benefit from that, particularly in games called by Angel Hernandez.
I see video compilations of like balls like literally like 3 feet outside the zone.
Literally, like it's bad. It's really bad.
Like there's some other ones where it's just like, okay, it was like an inch outside and they're getting reamed by like Aaron Boone argues with everyone. You see that game? They were playing the A's and Aaron Boone was like chirping from the dugout and the home plate umpire was just like, hey, like if you say another word, you're out. He's like, all right, fine. And then it was the fan behind Aaron Boone that's just like, get on it, Blue. Yeah. And he tossed him. And then the umpire justified it by being like, well, whoever said it on that side of the dugout, Aaron Boone's the manager of the Yankees. He's responsible for it, and that's why I threw him out. I'm like, no, you didn't know what you were doing.
Yeah,
you definitely thought he was yelling at you.
Absolutely lost control in that situation. And no. I think that, I don't know, something has to be done about it. But yeah, I think that he's horrendous. He has to go. It's bad. I don't know another umpire's name, and not for any good reason.
Yeah, that is true. Angel Hernandez. Who was Joe West? Do you remember him? He was like an older guy. I think he retired. As a baseball fan, I know a lot of people. Chris Guccione is one. Yeah, that's it.
We're starting out. That's pretty good, though. I mean, listen, more than I can name. So
Hunter something. That was the guy who threw out at Aaron Boone. Hunter Wendelstead was his name.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was an umpire for rec baseball when I was a kid.
Oh,
I think I was 13 years old, umping 11-year-old games.
Humble brag.
Terrible. It's the worst having like the dads come out and yell at you because you messed up a foul ball down the right field line that you called fair. It's just like, I'm 13.
Right.
Why don't you pay like an actual umpire to call these games?
So that actually is a great point. And we talk about that when we're sitting at my son's game, like some of the moms and I. It's like, you got to remember that a lot of the time they're not getting paid much. Like these umps oftentimes are under the age of 18.
Yep.
For some of these tournaments that are big tournaments and you're paying a lot of money as a team, I can understand having better officiating, especially if sounds so silly to be talking about 10U baseball, but especially if there's like, rankings on the line and whatnot. But for the most part, people just need to calm down.
Yeah. Like
recreational sports, freaking out with the umps. Like I can understand high school games, at that point, like the officiating should be much better. Youth athletics, though, like, come on.
Anybody could play. People are just here to get out of the house almost when it comes to rec stuff.
Yeah.
What's been your favorite moment watching from the stands as a mother for some of these baseball tournaments? Because those were like some of the most formative years of my life.
Yeah, it's when
crazy games during tournaments.
So this past weekend, actually, my son, so he's 10U, but they played up because we have a big tournament in California, so the coach wanted to prepare them. So we actually played.
Which is like a big deal when you're 10.
Yeah.
It's like playing in the major leagues almost. Everybody throws like 30 miles an hour faster.
Yeah. So we actually played an 11U tournament, and we ended up tying the first game, won the second game. Sunday was our coach's birthday. So when he entered, he was like, I feel like if we even get to Sunday, we're going to be first game in den. I'm going to be back on the couch by 10 o'clock. Yep. And we ended up winning we played 3 games on Sunday. We're down in almost every game and came back from behind. So yeah, just like watching the boys kind of get tough and bear down. And going against kids we have some big kids on our team, but everyone was bigger. Everyone threw faster. Everyone hit farther. And they just kind of put their head down and said, why not us? So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was really cute.
That almost never happens, too. It's hard to do that. To get a group of 10-year-olds together to be like...
Yeah. So there's
why not us?
There's
We're like the pit bulls.
Yeah. They there's a few of them that definitely have the dog in them. Like they get mad and it's cute. It's cute. So.
Oh yeah, it was so much fun. I remember winning like tournament championships, thinking you won like the World Series.
Oh, absolutely.
The dog piles.
What else is there?
Everybody just chirping in the dugout. You don't get that at the big league level.
No. And
nobody cares.
We're at that point too where kids are starting to hit home runs.
Oh yeah.
And so it's
best era.
Yeah, it's like everyone's first bomb.
Mm-hmm.
It's great.
Mine was a wall scraper, hit the top of the wall and just skipped right over. I'm like, yeah.
Still got it.
My brother would hit I think my brother hit like over 100 home runs in his youth baseball career. I hit like 4. So like when I hit them, they were a big deal. Like I'm like savoring the moment, rounding the bases.
Yeah.
It was a big deal, but like some people would literally like half swing with the aluminum bat, just carries
check
300
swing
feet.
oppo.
It's like, oh, there it goes.
Well, that's what that hype fire bat, like they're getting banned. I think it's like 12U, 13U, and a lot of the tournaments now you can't play with them.
Yep. So. We had I think what was it? The DeMarini Voodoo. It was straight aluminum. Like there's like no like it's like a -3 something or other. There's like something in the bat that you need to have now.
Okay.
It's like I forget what it's called.
I don't know.
It's been a long time. But this bat was straight aluminum. You hit it on the barrel, it's flying. Like, it's going, it's like a golf ball.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm hitting 550 this season. Like, I'm going pro. Like, I feel like $1 million. And then you come back the next season, like, yeah, half the bats that you guys were using last year are banned permanently. Right. And now we're just like hitting it on the barrel, and it's just like a blooper to center field. I'm like, oh no, I'm not good. I'm not as good as I thought I was.
There's a guy on TikTok, and he did a demonstration with like a wood bat versus the high flyer, and he hit like, I think exit speed was like 108, and then with the bat it was like 150, and then it went, I don't know, like 200 yards, still a homer, and then they like tracked the other one at like 470, like something outrageous. Yep. He's like, yeah, and that's why it's banned.
It's the equivalent to steroids almost. It's probably better than steroids.
What do you think? Do you think Barry Bonds, should they let him in?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in that. I believe Barry Bonds, well, maybe not so much Barry Bonds. Roger Clemens, yes. Roger Clemens, to me, like, it's hard to be an elite pitcher for as long as he was, to win 7 Cy Youngs, play in the biggest cities in the world, Boston, New York, Houston at the time, not really, but, and also he's just like a great guy. I've had the chance to interview him twice.
Okay.
Just a nice person. His family's really cool. His sons were raised right. Just like a good, like Barry Bonds, a lot of people say he's not that great of a human being. I don't know. But I feel like stats are stats. Bonds would have been a Hall of Famer without it, even if he didn't break any certain records. But
right. Yeah.
I think at the time when they first got on the ballot, you can make that argument. I feel like by the time that their names were, because I think it was 10 years you're allowed on the ballot. By the time like year 8, 9, 10 were coming up, I feel like a lot of people were kind of just, like a lot of the writers were just kind of like, yeah, it is what it is. Like, these guys were great. Right. Generational baseball players that changed and revolutionized the game.
There was nothing like, I'm from the Bay Area, and there was nothing like
Barry Bonds.
Yeah, being at a Giants game, and the gal, she actually just retired, their like longtime announcer, Ray, what's her name? Anyways, I'm going to mess up her name, but just like hearing her voice and announce Barry Bonds, it like, I didn't even play softball or baseball, and it's still like a childhood memory. Like Dusty Baker. I mean, I don't know. I think it's crazy that he's not in.
I could imagine like that 2001 season, he hit 73 home runs. Obviously, the chase of breaking every home run record, but it was Ruth, Hank Aaron, who had like 600, 700 home. I think he had like 762 or something.
Something crazy.
It's like every time he had in that bat towards the end of his career, you just wanted to tune in and see.
Yeah, he was either they were letting him take first, he was striking out, or he was in a home run.
I think he was the first guy that ever got intentionally walked with the bases loaded one time. Yeah, which is crazy.
Exactly. Yeah, like it was definitely something special.
But look at it in this day and age. Like, would you let A-Rod in the Hall of Fame? I personally wouldn't. I feel like Bonds and Clemens, it's like it was towards the end of their career where like that stuff started to come out. Where like A-Rod got caught multiple times.
I know. There's something bad about, and when you think about like cheating, I think you're supposed to think about it on a like level playing field. But you're right. Like A-Rod, there's something about him. It's like a bad taste in my mouth. You know, like I'm like, I can't get behind that one.
I think you see it too when you watch, I think it's the Fox pre and post game show where it's A-Rod, David Ortiz, and Derek Jeter. Where like Derek Jeter is just himself, for better or for worse. It's kind of dry on camera, but like he's just a class act.
You just like it's Jeter.
He just says the right things. He always does the right things. Yeah. Just Hall of Fame, Hollywood career. Then you have David Ortiz, who's just himself, which is like the most entertaining aspect of the entire broadcast. Just like, oh my God, that guy is a blast. I'd love to party with David Ortiz. And then there's A-Rod, who's just like spray tan to the nines. Like you can just tell like the Botox in his face, like fake smile, his teeth are all whitened. Yeah. And I'm just like, nothing about you seems real right now.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan. I'm really not a huge fan. And when people try and compare A-Rod to Jeter, it's like, you can't even, you just can't.
Like, he wasn't even the best shortstop on his team. Yeah, maybe not, but like A-Rod. No one worked harder.
I know.
Like, he's like the true definition of like hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
And I also feel like he just did things right. Whether it's like
all the
personal
time.
life, like
They just did that. Well, yeah, it was a Jeter documentary. I guess it came out a couple years ago on ESPN, but I just watched it.
okay.
So I'm like in my childhood feels.
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
this guy's amazing. Just like did everything right. Like the hardest city to make it in the world, to be the shortstop of the most successful sports franchise in the history of sports. It's just like, you just wanted to win. You didn't get in trouble. Like, imagine like going out and like, even just having fun like one night, like your name's going to be in the paper for something that you did wrong or were a part of. Like, he never was in.
Well, do you know like the story about the gift basket?
Oh yeah. I've talked about this with people too. Apparently that's fake too. Like,
Oh, no,
I think he finally, in that documentary towards the end, that got brought up.
Oh, okay.
So for those who don't know, like Derek Jeter was known for having one night stands and giving away gift baskets to his one night stands, which is honestly not a bad idea.
I'm like, hey, like, so here's your party gift.
Like signed baseball, a couple of like whiskey bottles or something. But apparently that came out in the news, and he was in line at like a Starbucks or something, and a fan tapped him on the shoulder. He's like, hey man, I'm doing gift baskets like you too. And he's just like, you fucking idiot. Like, he's like, I don't do that. Like, that was just like completely made up, I guess. But
that just goes to show how much people wanted to back him.
Yeah.
He even
just
gives
like, I
his
do
one
it
night
too.
stand.
It's a great idea.
He even gives his one night stand gift baskets.
He's like, are you fucking stupid?
I don't know.
But also, like, I remember ESPN came out with like that giant like field diagram of like all of his ex-girlfriends or girls that like he dated in the past.
Yeah,
Just like an all-star lineup
Tyra
of
Banks,
females.
Mariah Carey.
Yeah, Minka Kelly.
Yeah.
And no one.
No.
None of those girls had any dirt on them.
Nothing. That's what I mean.
Bad.
Even his personal life was clean. And his wife, are you kidding me? She's beautiful.
Yep.
Hannah,
I forget what her maiden name was,
Yeah.
but Hannah Jeter. She was a model. I remember her on that. It was like what was it, like a deodorant commercial where like she was like on a horse or something.
Oh, okay.
That's how I knew
That was
her as a
after
kid.
she landed the cover of SI.
Yeah.
Like the Sports Illustrated issue.
Oh yeah, then she blew up.
Yeah, she's beautiful though. Beautiful. So
just goes to show, just be a good human being. Yeah, that's just my phone. You can grab that, Ann.
we're good.
But that just goes to show, just be a decent human being.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
So I feel like Derek Jeter, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't like the most good-looking guy in the world.
Listen,
Imagine if he wasn't an athlete. Though.
he's
like,
not. But he's still easy on the eyes. He has light eyes, right? Doesn't he? Yeah,
something like that.
He has nice skin. He's good. I can't say anything bad about him.
I can never.
Yeah.
You never know. He might. Every time I tag him in a reel where I'm talking about him, he sees the story. So I'm just like, I can't say anything bad about him.
No. Yeah. We could say a lot of bad things about a lot of people too, but not him.
No. Who could we talk bad about?
How much time do we have? I mean, I'm like, who do you want to talk bad about is the better question.
I feel like there's really... Oh, I wanted to talk about influencers.
Okay. Well, we could always talk bad about them.
I feel like there's a lot of bad ones.
There are a lot of bad ones.
I feel like we're in an era where, like, especially young men like me, like I have a lot of friends who are just very much into, like, you got to drive this car, you got to wear this watch, you got to have X amount of dollars in your bank account, or else you're not living up to your status as a man. And I'm like, what is this?
Yeah. So I always describe it as people looking and comparing their life and where they're at to everyone else's highlight reel. And it really is like, no one is putting their skeletons out there. No one's showing their real life. And okay, maybe you have a small percentage of people who are absolutely killing it and they, take a lot of pride in their possessions and that's what they want to put out there because that's what they want to attract and people who admire that and value that. But the way that it has penetrated our culture, like society, the way it has become so important where people are like, oh, what's your Instagram? And it's like, you're almost like dismissed if you don't have a certain amount of followers or if you're not putting certain things out there. It's really sad. It's really crazy. Like I actually overheard two girls, I was in Scottsdale and it was funny, but it was also sad. She was like
anything else.
I know. It's like, what is it? Those accounts like Overheard in LA? We need to start an Overheard in Scottsdale.
Yeah.
It'd be trash. Absolute trash. But she was like, if he's not verified or doesn't have a wiki, then I'm not interested. And I'm like, oh.
That's next level.
I just like turned around. I was like, tough crowd.
I feel like even if he doesn't have a 6-pack or doesn't have these tattoos, like I know a lot of friends who are like into that, or it's like if they don't have that, like that's pretty superficial. But for them not to have like
if you're not verified or on wiki, then I'm like, man, like I want to know what are you bringing to the table?
Yeah, seriously.
You know, like okay.
Were these girls cute?
She was pretty cute, but
naturally,
that made her not cute.
Yeah,
in my opinion. Yeah. And I'm a huge advocate for women. Like I'm like, I love it. I think most women by nature are great. I wouldn't say I'm like some huge feminist, but I'm definitely like I'm gonna back the girl 9 times out of 10.
You should.
Yeah, and it definitely. I was like, it was funny, but also sad that you meant it.
Mm-hmm. Were they young? Were they?
Yeah, they were definitely young. They were.
Give it time.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the people that you see in especially at the bars in Scottsdale, their 20s versus their 30s are going to be a completely different human being.
Yeah.
And if they're not, then
right.
God bless you.
But listen, there's a lot of people like that. Like their 20s aren't much different than their 40s.
Yeah.
I have a lot of friends. I don't know why. I think I have friends in their 40s. I have friends in their 50s, and I'm telling you to get back on like where some people are at in their 20s. Like I have friends in their mid 40s still doing the same thing. So, or acquaintances at least.
Yeah.
So
that's tough.
It is. I can't imagine and I might hurt some feelings with this one. I'm going to refrain. I think it'd be really hard to date today. I think dating would be really in this day and age with just unlimited.
Oh, you think I know?
You felt that one.
Yeah.
Like,
nah, not really.
No, but I mean, a lot of my girlfriends that I talk to, we talk about it on the podcast a lot too. Like, it's just constant. There's always something else there.
Yeah.
And everybody's
looking for the red flag, right?
Well, I mean, the red flags are abundant, I feel like.
Yeah. But I feel like there's obvious red flags, and then there's nitpicking. Which is I didn't like that.
Yeah. Well, everyone's picky too, because they think that to your point, the grass is always greener when it's really not.
It ain't.
It really isn't.
And even if it is initially, it doesn't stay green.
No. Well,
stick it out long enough, that grass turns brown real quick.
It's like, I also think that there's something going on where people don't want to put in the work.
Yeah.
There's this element to it of dating. It's almost like sport, where it's that became too much work. That's not me. I don't want to do that. And it's it's not. This is a relationship.
Yep.
It seems like there's
a give and take with everything.
It's the trenches.
I was telling my friend's girlfriend who's like, I don't run, I don't do this. Eventually she started it, and it's oh, I actually kind of like this. It's you don't really know what you're going to like or not like unless you try certain things. And
yeah. Be open-minded to it.
Yeah.
Just maybe not open-minded to everyone who gives you a chance.
Yeah. Apparently now I need to have a Wikipedia, and
we can do that though.
I guess, yeah. I've looked into it a few times. People charge so much money to
really
help you out with certain things.
That's so crazy.
I mean, Anthony's charging me $3,000 just for him to be here.
He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he's a good businessman. I'm the sucker. But yeah, I mean, it's a strange world out there. Everybody's on Hinge these days. I feel like Hinge is just as bad as any other dating app.
Okay, so my 2 girlfriends, and we actually have this guy on the show sometimes, Rob, for just a guy's.
Oh, I listened to that episode, Single Rob. Yeah.
Single Rob. The prompts and the way, the photo selection and the way people break down, oh, well, her first photograph is in a swimsuit, so that's a red flag, and he has too many pictures of his dog, so that's not for me. And it's you
haven't even met the guy.
Yeah, well, and also I understand first impression is everything, and this profile is supposed to be how you're introducing yourself. Holy crap. The things that people will say and feel comfortable saying when it comes to potential dating interests, things that are not okay to say.
Yeah.
Where you're just wow, that says a lot about you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yep. Huh, okay.
But it's like, you want to be honest,
Right.
but you don't want to be like overly I don't know. Like you just I actually think I was listening to that episode where I think it was Rachel talking about going on a date with someone who was like, or maybe it was Rob, who was like, I went on a date with someone and she was like immediately like, oh, I lost my job today, but I have another one lined up. And he's just like, oh, I kind of appreciate the honesty.
Yes, that's exactly. It was Rob.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Some people might be like, oh my gosh, you're unstable. You lost your job. Whereas he kind of saw it as like, this person's really honest and genuine and kind of led with that. It showed a sense of confidence. It showed a sense of, just being authentic and this is what I'm going through. And he said that was really refreshing because you don't get that.
No.
He's like, he literally said it feels like people just date for sport. And when they talk about it, they, meaning the people that I podcast with, like they'll even reference it like, oh, I'm going on a break. Like I have to take a hinge break. And it's like, this seems so draining.
Yep. And then it's for like 3 days and they're right back on it.
Yeah. Well, and then, but being a guy too, right? Because we're kind of in this, I feel like there's still a lot of these norms of like, well, men have to pay. And so if you are going on all of these dates, even if you just go on like 3 or 4 dates a week, like that gets expensive.
Yeah, it's at least $100.
Like
probably way more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Depends where you're going.
My brother went on a date. They went to like this new restaurant and he said that the girl ordered a $200 bottle of wine. And my brother's, he's almost 27. And he said he just sat there and he was like, oh.
Could you not be considerate of someone?
Could you imagine? That's just like a celebratory, like I am not opening a menu and at any financial stage in my life and being like on a first time hanging out with someone and expecting them to pay $200 for a bottle of wine.
Wine is wine, in my opinion, too. $200, $20, it all tastes the same.
Maybe after like 4 glasses. But just like really the audacity.
Yeah.
Like, ew. I would have, at that point, that behavior, I would allow you to get up, say, excuse me, go to the restroom and be like, enjoy paying for that $200 bottle of wine because you're trash. That is so rude. That is so inconsiderate. First date.
Was that the only date they went on?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He said she was smoking hot though.
I can picture it now.
She had to have been to think that like this is just what I'm going to open with.
That's incredible. That's remarkable.
Welcome to Scottsdale.
Yeah, that's tough. Vegas, I see it a lot too. Like there's just no one out there that just like down to earth, just wants to get to know you, ask a million questions. It's like you ask 2 questions and then they're on their phone. It's like they're searching for the next guy already.
Rough.
Yeah.
Rough.
It's a tough world out there. I feel like out here it's either, because again, being in like this space and like getting to know people, it's like you have to be involved in like, not involved in the Scottsdale vibe, but like know people.
Yeah.
And like 9 times out of 10, I go home from some of these events like, oh my God, these people suck. But then there's like the other side where like, I feel like Christian culture is very big out here as well. Mm-hmm. And like I go to church every Sunday and all my closest friends are like devoted Christians, but then that's almost like goody two shoes to a sense.
I get
where
it.
It's just like too much on that side too.
Yeah.
It's like everything I do is wrong, you know?
Right. There's no balance. Whoop. They're not going to like this episode then because
No, I bring it up all the time. I feel like I'm a black sheep in my church.
Yeah.
It's just like I tell things like it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. It is. You're right. I feel like the Valley is very split. It's very split. And there's a ton of new people, not new, but like transplants. I feel like people coming from all over. And then you have, at least, I feel like in like the southeast area of the Valley where you almost feel like people are trying to like hold on to this. I wouldn't even call it religious, like they're religious ideals, but they're definitely trying to, it's like they're trying to preserve the old way, whatever that means. Mm-hmm. So there's like resistance.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine how you dabble between.
It's fun. I have stories for both sides, you know?
I bet.
I don't understand how you can live your life like that. You just hear that every day.
That's crazy though. I feel like there's still like balance. Like
but they're hard to find.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I could see that. It's hard. It's hard these days.
Yeah.
It's hard.
We'll just keep persevering.
You'll find her.
Yeah.
She's out there.
It's crazy. I haven't been on a date, talking about Hinge and stuff. I haven't been on a date in like 2 years.
Really?
This is really bad.
Wait, just because you're busy, because you're not interested?
Busy and not interested. Yeah, I mean, obviously you make the time for the things that are important to you. That just isn't an important thing, I guess, right now. Because it's like I'm just building what I'm building, trying to work for myself and make that work. And then just like not great initial date experiences. It's like, why would I do that again until someone comes into my life and it makes sense?
Where do you think the best, well, you haven't been on a date in 2 years, so I don't know if you're the person for this, but where do you think people should meet people? Like what?
Like on a first date?
No, like how do you think people should,
like
where are people meeting? Because Hinge is just like it's, and the way they dangle women, like Bumble, you know that.
Bumble's the worst. Bumble's for men who don't have courage because the women have to make the first move.
Right.
I have had so many female friends that are just like, I found them on Bumble. I'm like, oh, this isn't gonna last.
Yeah.
Why?
First red flag.
Why did you get on Bumble? I'm a big like storyteller. So like, if that ever happens for me, it's got to have a great story. Okay. It cannot be we met on Hinge. It can't be we met at a bar. But like also in this day and age, I feel like that's how a lot of people meet.
That's what I was trying to get at. Like where, because you haven't met someone at church.
Nope. Hey, maybe one day. My buddy
Hillsong.
Recently. I have a lot of buddies at Hillsong. Carl Lentz.
Rob went to Hillsong.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Nice. Not a bad environment. It's just obviously not all kind of, what was the guy's name? Houston? The guy who owned it?
Yeah.
That was a good documentary. My buddy, like 6 months ago, met his now fiance, 6 months later, engaged, at church. She just happened to show up one day, was invited by a friend, so.
See?
You know, things happen, but like I definitely just think we're in an age where like if you want it, you really have to go out of your way for it. It's not going to be like a God thing where it's like, oh, you meet one day and you hit it off, and I feel like that's a thing of the past for most people.
I still think that the best way to meet people is through friends.
Yeah. I feel like every girl I've ever was really interested in, we were like friends and we were hanging out in friend groups.
Mutual friend or a friend is like, hey, I have someone for you to meet. I still feel like of everyone I know, of all the relationships I know that have made it, it's typically that.
Yeah.
Even today, with all of the sliding in the DMs and the Hinge and the Raya, and it's still like person-to-person contact. So.
Yep. And that's another bad one. Oh, I DM them.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
But you hear about that a lot. You hear about it a lot.
Yeah.
Which is why I think, again, like it's a revolving door out there.
How'd you meet your husband?
Through a friend.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
No, like great extravagant story, or?
I didn't like him at first.
That's usually how it works too, I hear.
Yeah. He said I was kind of a bitch.
That's usually how it works.
Sorry, pardon my language. Yeah. He was playing for the Raiders, and I continued to talk about how horrible they were because that was when the Niners were in the playoffs with like Colin Kaepernick and doing really well. Yep. And I was like, yeah, y'all are garbage, and like continued to like break down the defensive line despite them like, yeah, they actually had a pretty good like D line, and he said he was impressed by my knowledge, but also totally insulted. So
hey, it gets the conversation going, right?
Yeah. In my case, it didn't though. I was just like, yeah, thanks, but no thanks. But we ended up meeting a few more times randomly, or like at least seeing each other in San Francisco. Right. So
that's how it works out.
Yeah, and then the first time we talked, I actually like sat down and talked to him. We literally hung out every day after that.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's interesting. So did you like him initially?
No.
Interesting. Yeah, I feel like I've had those experiences too, where it's like didn't like them initially. Honestly, like even like emotional, physical attraction, like none of it, and then you get to know someone, and it's like, oh, okay.
And that's the other reason why I think it'd be really hard for me, because I'm very much about your personality. Yeah, like people look at the people that I've dated, I kind of blonde, like all of brunette. Right. Like it's for me, it's about how you carry yourself. And then, can you make me laugh?
Yeah.
Like that was always like, okay, great, you might be easy on the eyes, but like, what do you have going on upstairs?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
rocks.
A lot of people are rocks are just like mentally unstable.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of that.
But yeah, I feel like we live in an era where like no one really laughs anymore. And when you do, it's very just like, oh, that was supposed to be a joke, and then you laugh, and it's like,
well, I think things are like super crude or yeah. Actually, did you see that Jerry Seinfeld just gave that commencement speech where he's talking about humor?
Yep.
I think it's that. Like, I think some people are just so far, like, on one side of the pendulum where it's just like, that's crazy, insulting, and then other people just don't have a sense of humor.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're right. I think that there really is no in between, and people are sensitive about everything. People are freaking out about the roast of Tom Brady.
That's what made that roast so great, because it was like
Nikki Glaser. Like, are you kidding me?
all of them.
They really did do good. But like, take a joke.
Yeah.
Take a joke.
That was not a night for the liberals.
Giselle. Oh yeah. Well, but I mean,
And Giselle, yeah.
Really, that's what people are upset about. They're like, how could he go on there and allow people to talk about his wife? And it's like, I'll give you 30 million reasons how.
Well, yeah, right. But also, it's funny that his wife and his kids were off limits, but Robert Kraft, they're like, no jokes about Robert Kraft and happy endings.
Yeah, I know. Well, it just goes to show. Well, he's also trying to still get approved as the NFL owner for the Raiders.
Is he?
Yeah. So
I guess there's a lot on the line.
Yeah, lots on the line.
Yeah.
He was like, we're just gonna lay off this one until the NFL owner.
So when I first saw Tom Brady go up to Jeff Ross and just like cut that shit out, I'm like, oh, I guess that was just like a joke, but I guess it really wasn't.
No, I don't think that was a joke. I think that was like the one. What do you expect? I mean, I think that if I'm ever going on a roast, nothing's off limits. I can understand because of like that's like financial implications, but everyone.
So you say that now, like everything's off limits, but then your friends bring out stuff that no one really knows about, and you're like, you're just supposed to sit there and laugh and like, oh, I didn't think that was going to come out tonight.
But for $30 million, you could say what you want to say.
Yeah.
And who hasn't said it's Tom Brady? Like everything is out there.
For the most part.
Everyone already knew. It wasn't like there was these, oh my gosh, we had no idea. Like.
And there was so many. I think Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer were making fun of like his model pictures. Mm-hmm. They're like, that's the fucking gayest shit I've ever seen. Just like laughing hysterically.
It was really good. I watched it. I know a lot of people are like, why would I watch this? Nothing's good. Like, what? It's a roast. Like, the roasts are never, they're never wholesome. They're never, you know what I mean? And getting back to like comedy, like it's not.
Like the amount of Aaron Hernandez jokes too. We're just like, oh my God.
Edelman had that one. Yeah. That was like, and it took people a second too.
Yeah. Just talking about Gronk's dick.
I know another tight end that was hung.
Yeah, something along those lines. I think Bert Kreischer was like comparing him to like Hitler or something. He's like a stone cold killer. And Tom Segura was like, no, that was Aaron Hernandez, Tom's bestie. And they're like hugging in a picture. Just two dudes hanging out, hanging around.
Well, they said on the documentary that at one point Tom was trying to like get him to live with him and straighten things out and kind of maybe go down a different path. But
didn't he do all that stuff in college?
That's what I was going to say. That path was already forged. Like this was not. I think it all started. If you watch the documentary, so he's from Connecticut. His brother actually went to UConn. His brother tried to get into UConn, and then his father passed away. And then that's when his mom started dating the aunt's boyfriend or husband. Something funky there. I remember there was like some familial drama, and I think that just derailed him. But then
he also had like the exalted Tim Tebow, who's just like perfect Christian as his quarterback.
It just goes to show it isn't always about who you're surrounded by.
No, that's the other thing influencers say these days. It's like you want to be at the places you want to be at. It's like surround yourself with the right people, put your head down and work. And it's like, yeah, no shit.
Right.
But like, I feel like that's pretty black and white. There's a lot more to it than that.
It feels nice to say.
Yeah.
But that's just not the reality of like what is possible for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. I had a guy on a podcast. He invited me to like his mastermind event that apparently people paid like $5,000 to go to. Okay. And then basically those were the messages. Like surround yourself with the right people, provide value. I'm like, okay, like stuff I've heard before, but like, what do you mean? Like, what value? What type of value should we be providing?
Right.
Like, how should we go about organizing it? What type of people should we be surrounded by? Because that's different for everybody.
Right.
Like, there was really like no
context.
There was a lot of fluff, and people were walking away like, "Oh yeah, man, like,
I'm inspired.
I'm
motivated.
inspired. Like, you guys paid X amount of dollars for this."
It's literally what we're seeing with. I don't know if we want to get even political, but people will be moved by what they spend their money on, and once you can get someone to buy in on, they bought a ticket for $1,000 or $5,000, whatever it is. Now it's like they're just looking for a reason to like it.
Yep.
You know, it's like
they need to justify it.
They need to justify the spend. And it's like, oh, well, that was amazing. It's like, to your point, you can TikTok. Like, I could, this was an outline, bullet points. Like, I could have gotten this in 5 minutes for free. Mm-hmm. Because to your point, no context. No, how do I go about doing this? Where should I be going? You know, what is value? Okay, like, I understand everyone has their audience or their niche or their industry, but like, and I get that. Kind of circling back to what we were talking about earlier, everyone's favorite topic is me. And so when you see these influencers or podcasters or anyone and all they're talking about is themselves, it's annoying. It gets old really quick. But like, so then when people try and sell these motivational, what would we even call them? They're like
they're like courses almost.
Yeah. Like have you ever come across one that bullet points what you're supposed to do?
There's one guy that I really love out of any influencer in the entire world right now that actually, and he does it like on his YouTube channel for free.
Okay.
It's like, and there's a lot of people that'll put out stuff on YouTube and be like, I accomplished X, Y, and Z. You too can accomplish X, Y, and Z. Just pay $97 a month for my course. Where this guy's just like, don't believe in that. Don't want to sell you anything. And he just, if you actually listen to like his 2-hour videos, I'm like, I've learned way more in this video than I learned in school growing up.
Yeah.
His name's Alex Hermosi.
Okay.
And he's really just a smart dude.
Okay.
Like, owns multiple gyms and just has figured it out, but also is kind of linked to like those other business gurus like the Grant Cardones or like whoever you want to talk about, who kind of just sells everything that they're supposed to be selling. Yeah.
So what is how did he make his wealth? Was it like scaling business? Like, what did he?
Yeah. So he scaled multiple gyms. He even like showed pictures and videos of him like sleeping at the gyms because he didn't have enough money for a place. So he's like, I just slept on the gym floor starting out. And then he's like, then I built my team. And then I'd have to like look into it, but like word got around, he was able to scale it. Just brainiac human being, was like the valedictorian. I don't know if I said that right. You know, best student in school.
So he obviously wasn't.
Not even close. I don't even know how I passed high school. I was that guy who literally to the last day, I like looked over at the dean of students. She's just like, yep, you can go up. Like,
yeah.
I just got
allow
by.
it.
Yeah. My dean of students was my mother's soccer coach when she was in high school. So I'm like, I have that on my side. Like, worst case scenario, she likes my mom. So.
Familial ties.
Yep. It worked out. Like even in college, barely made it through. And then you go out into the real world, and I'm like, it doesn't even matter.
No.
Unless I wanted to go like the nursing route or doctor or whatever.
Exactly, a very like specific field.
But this guy was going through like how to build a brand properly, how to build like a course if you wanted to go through that, and actually like not BS, like not trying to intimidate people.
Right.
I feel like there's a lot of people who are like, if you don't have this by this time, like, what are you doing? You got to get
fear tactics.
You're behind. Yeah. Just like really like hitting it where it hurts. And a lot of people look at these men like gods. Mm-hmm. Like, who were some of the people we were talking about before? Andy Elliott's a new one out here, who's just like a big car salesman, now he's in everything. Car sales, insurance, real estate investing, whatever. All these uncapped industries. And he just takes advantage of the insecure men out there.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I think that there is, when you talk about industry, there's definitely something to be said about unsexy business.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people want to get into business that is like oohs and the ahs, is something that they think is, fancy lights. But like there's a group, so there's two guys. Now I think it's just Cam Bradford.
Yeah.
But he decided to target pest control. And now they have Green Mango Pest Control. And they do really freaking well for themselves.
Yeah.
And coconut cleaning. And at one point they had agave auto glass. And so it's the same model of like, it's an unsexy business, but there's a real need. And if you can just carve out and diversify a little, then you can be really successful. Obviously, you have to provide a good service.
Consistently.
But I think that's kind of where people miss the mark to begin with.
Yeah.
They like you said, like they see the Instagram, like, oh, I want to do this. And it's like, no, if you want to be super successful, why would you go to a saturated, a saturated market? Why would you do something where there's already a ton of people doing it and not even be the best service or product available?
Yep.
Like, how do you expect to succeed? And I don't even think that people cover that in these initial conversations of like how to build your business portfolio, how to get your money, your mailbox money.
And not everything works the way it works for them too. It's like just because it worked for me doesn't mean it's going to work for you. Like, I guess consulting and people can just make money off of like, oh, you want to learn how I did it? This is how I did it. But like you could apply that and it doesn't work at all.
Yeah. Well, there's like that one gal, she's a nasty gal. Yeah. So she consults. And she's like, learn how I did it. And it's like, you did Nasty Gal at a completely different time. This is a different juggernaut. And now Nasty Gal is not what it was because you sold it off and they couldn't replicate what you were doing at that time. Yeah, we see a lot. Again, it just depends on the industry. But there's just so many stories out there where people are like, oh, if I just do exactly what this guy did, then I should succeed. And it's just not. It's never the case.
Nope.
It's
never.
The case.
Never. And too many people are just being like, I have an acquaintance out there who's just like buying a ton of followers on Instagram. And he's like, basically all the pictures are just him wearing Ray-Bans with like his gold necklace, driving a car that he doesn't own. And I'm like, it doesn't get any more fake than this, dude. Like, you need to stop this. And then he's just like trying to be like, hey, I got 3 more spots available for my course if anybody wants to join for like $5,000. And it's just like, you're just scamming people at that point.
So then does he have anyone buying the courses?
I think so. I mean, he makes it seem like he does. Who knows?
So then
that's the thing with social media. It's like, you don't actually know what any of these people are doing or what they're actually successful at or not.
So I will say, I've noticed with the algorithm is obviously constantly changes. Yeah. But there are people I know who have authentic followings.
Oh, of course.
And their reach, you're like, how do you have 100,000 followers and you have, 200 likes or 300? So I do think that there are some, like, it's not easy to spot who is fake because sometimes the algorithm is just funky, right? Yeah. And it's limiting who your audience and new followers or even your existing followers, right? And then if you see it all the time, like if someone wants to have a political message or if someone wants to say something unpopular, all of a sudden they're like, I'm being completely shadow banned by whether it's, I don't think you hear about it on TikTok, but Instagram or Facebook, So I do think, to your point, like no one even knows what's real anymore.
Nope.
It's the wild, wild west.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like when like they have 300,000 followers and they're getting 11 likes on a post. Yeah. I know people like that too. I'm like, you're not even hiding it well, man.
That's brutal.
And then they go out and they like sell courses on how to build your brand. I'm like, you don't have a brand. You bought it all.
I would love to see what you think. What is the context? Because this is shocking.
Oh my God. And then there's, like you said, there's people who have 300,000 followers and then they get like 200,000 comments on each of their posts because every single one of their followers has been with them since the beginning.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And those are the best people too. Right. Well, they're actually living their dream and they don't really like have any hate or any like negativity in their heart or like this hustle hard mentality of like, you got to be a man and do this, whatever. Yeah. Well,
and I mean, I think those like gender roles too, like women are supposed to be doing this and men are supposed to be doing this, that's a whole nother topic in itself. Do you think that what is your opinion on your engagement on TikTok versus Instagram? Because I think, for me personally, just as like a user, not even someone who puts a ton of content out, I feel like the conversations on Instagram are overwhelmingly negative.
Yeah.
Versus TikTok, where I feel like TikTok, there are actual conversations.
Yeah.
But I think I'll see the most mundane post. It'll be some girl making bread. I don't know, anything. And people are just like coming at her like, you didn't use this. You shouldn't use that. Why would you use a non-pet? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
What, like, where do you think that?
None of these people have profile pictures too.
Yeah.
There's like, who cares
Literally
about your
just
opinion?
behind the keyboard. What is your experience been with that?
Yeah, comments wise, I agree. I think TikTok, it's pretty generic. A lot of the stuff I post nowadays is just like things people can get behind. So like I've been doing like a lot of baseball stuff, a lot of like Yankee stuff specifically, because like that's easy for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have like this deal with WWE to put out posts. So I've been doing a lot of pro wrestling stuff. That's where it gets fun in the comments.
Yeah.
Because it's like it either gets thrown into the algorithm ether where it's getting sent out to pro wrestling fans all over the place, and those do really well. But then I could tell when like they don't get a ton of views, and then there's like a few negative comments. I'm like, that just got sent to my friends who don't care about pro wrestling at all.
Right.
I remember my mom made an Instagram account a couple of months ago, and the first day she was on it, I posted something. I forget what the actual post was, but the first comment on the post was from a guy who didn't have a profile picture, and he said, buy a small rope and find like a tall tree or something.
Jeez.
Something along those lines. I'd have to pull it up. But like my mom's clapping back in the comments. I'm like, relax. Like this is what happens. Like this is social media.
This is free.
This is what happens,
free
right?
reign, yeah, exactly.
But it's like people are negative like that. Where you can't really take it to heart. And I think Instagram's definitely the most negative platform of all in every aspect. Whether it's comments from people, lack of engagement, algorithms all over the place. Or like TikTok is the algorithm's way better. Most things pop. Mm-hmm. Regardless of what the comments, there's negative people everywhere, but you just kind of have to roll with those punches. If you can't roll with the punches, you shouldn't be in content creation.
Yeah, exactly. You got to be able to take both sides.
It's like some person that's not even showing their face on their profile picture. It's like, who cares what they
has
think?
something to say. I think about child influencers all the time, or like families people who put their kids out there, and that is like what their content is about. Like that to me,
it's got to be the equivalent of being a child actor.
Yeah, right? And honestly, almost. I mean, I guess maybe not worse. Everything that's come to light with Nickelodeon, but but like I just can't. My kids always want to talk about. My daughter really is like, Mom, I want a YouTube channel, and I'm just like, for me personally, I don't want to crush your dreams, but like it's likely not going to be JoJo Siwa at Ryan's World. And I'm not going to subject you to adults who, to your point, have nothing better to do than talk about kids, weirdos on the internet, like little girl. Like that one is really hard for me to get behind. Like the kid social, there's just so much negativity out there.
So I think that's like the number one like occupation that kids want to do these days is be a YouTuber.
Absolutely. That's like what. Even kids in high school.
Yeah.
How we were talking about, everyone's like, oh, like your profile, and that's all that matters. Even, 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds. People.
It's a world we're getting into.
We are. And so, of course, you have these kids who are like, that's just what they want to do. And they see these scripted episodes. It's like almost to the point where it's not real.
Yeah.
Like, it's not real. It's a self-made episode that they're pushing as reality, and these other young kids are buying it.
Yep.
And it's just not.
Yep.
I don't know. It's scary. I think it's scary.
It's it's unsettling for sure. Because there's people that'll like make a ton of money in it really quick too. That'll just keep doing it because they can. Yeah. But like they're not putting out the right messages.
No. Oh my gosh. And sometimes, I mean, even for adults, like sometimes I sit there and I'm like, how does this have the traction that it does? Like, it's crazy. It's like what you said, everyone's selling a bill of goods.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there's so many things that like I'll post. I'm like, I don't know how that didn't get more, like not even like blow up,
Yeah.
but like just like more of an audience for it.
More engagement.
And then I see like, I forget what the podcast was. It's just like these two girls who are probably a lot like those girls you saw in Scottsdale, who were just kind of like, they definitely had like 2.0 GPAs in college, just like, kind of like, so, like, what did you do yesterday? It's like, nothing, just ate some cheese. Like, it was just like the most boring conversation ever.
Right.
But they were really attractive girls, and it got like 10 million views.
That's crazy.
And I'm like, this is like, I'm like hitting my head on the wall, like, how? And they're making tons of money off of this.
Yeah.
It's like, and then there's some people who like prep a ton for their stuff, and it doesn't go anywhere.
I know.
So,
I know.
what are we pushing out into the world?
I know. I feel like it's TikTok's where it's at for sure. I need to get better about TikTok.
It's not America owned. That's why. They almost took that away too.
They're still trying.
Yeah.
They're still trying.
What would that world look like if all social media was just taken away from us?
Well, remember when like Instagram had their outage and people literally lost their entire like way of making money and their in persona and their platform? That's why they talk about diversifying and putting content on multiple platforms, multiple channels, because if something were to happen with Instagram or TikTok or YouTube, and that's your single source of revenue, that's where you are interacting with your audience.
Yeah.
You're at the mercy of that platform.
Yep.
And no one has control over, to your point, what the algorithm is doing with your content.
Yep.
And people were losing their minds.
Yep.
There was a day, I want to say like a year ago, where it was down all day. And people did not.
Oh, it was only a day?
It was only a day. And people were like, did not know what to do with themselves.
That's dangerous, man. I get it though. I was at that point like 2 years ago where like, I was like, not at the mercy of it, but like seeing like certain posts like not doing well. And it's like, well, I have investors into this and like, I have to get big numbers and like, it's just a lot of pressure, but it's like, you don't have control over that.
You have no control over that.
Like, what are the reasons you're doing this? Like, I really had to sit down and be like, why do I do this? It's like, I love doing this. Just keep putting out the stuff you want to put out, build genuine relationships with people. Like, don't worry about what Instagram does with your stuff, because...
Well, you can't control it. You can't control it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, unless you want to, like, pay for a bunch of... But
even that's not really... I don't think that helps.
No.
You know?
Well, because the first one, it will, because they get you to bite, right? Because they have to make their money.
It's like anything else.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then it goes to die.
Yep. Yep. It's like going on a date with a girl. It's like, it was great. And then the second date, she buys a $200 bottle of wine.
Yeah.
It's absurd.
That's so rude. That's so rude. I couldn't imagine.
Was your brother cool with it, or like
he
did that sting for a while?
Oh, he literally just told me. He just told me this yesterday, actually. And I was like, no way. He's like, yeah. Because we were at Thea. And he's like, I took a girl on a date here once. And I was like,
just traumatized.
Just traumatized. I was like, that's ridiculous.
Yep.
Yeah. Don't wish that upon anyone.
No, that's brutal. That's the worst kind of date you can go on.
But don't you feel like Scottsdale girls are... I've always said that Scottsdale was like a wannabe LA.
Yeah. Oh, well, I think it's going to be LA in like the next decade. LA isn't what it once was. And I feel like a lot of people are coming here, and Scottsdale is going to be that. In a lot of ways already is, just on a much smaller scale. But yeah, everybody just wants, I don't know. Like, everybody just wants like the great things up front. And
they don't understand how much work goes into it.
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough being a human being. So the last girl I actually went on a date with told me that she found me physically unattractive. That's probably a big reason why I don't, or haven't dated in the last few years. It's like, well, I guess that's what I'm dealing with out here.
That's so wild.
So wild and so untrue. So inaccurate.
For starters.
Right, Aunt?
For starters. He's like, no comment. No, that is so wild that someone would just, okay, let me back up. I actually absolutely understand what, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I get it.
I get it. I know what
I've been here for the last hour. It makes sense.
No, I'm a huge advocate for just being honest. Like, if something's not working, don't waste my time.
Oh, for sure.
You know?
Absolutely.
But I also think that with honesty, there's delivery. you know, and I wouldn't say that there's a right time for honesty, but I think that there are ways to just not be a human being.
Yeah.
And I think that was like, I think she missed the mark on that one a little. Like you could have just said, you know, this one's not for me, but I really appreciate your time. And it's been
Which would have been fine. Like, oh, great.
Like you're
appreciate the communication. It's better than like being ghosted by someone. That's the worst.
Okay, can we talk about that for a second?
Yeah.
It's so awful.
And it's so common.
Everyone does it. I feel like everyone does it. And it's like, why? Like, why? Is it that painful for you to just send a text and be like, hey, this isn't working out for me? So here's my thing. Do people do it because they want to be mean, or do they do it because they want to potentially keep that as a backdoor option?
Gee, I wouldn't know, but I think yes, both are. I think people are not, what's the word, courageous enough to actually like speak their mind when like it's one thing to speak your mind when you're feeling like a positive way. It's another thing to be like, this ain't working for me, especially when you feel like, oh, they definitely think it's working.
Yeah.
That again, hopefully I never have to experience something like that. But I think, yeah, especially, I think it's more so on the female side, correct me if I'm wrong, where like people will ghost just to keep them as like a backdoor option, and then they resurface later. Like the You're just like, no, your communication skills are terrible.
It's like the trenches out there.
Yeah, you got married young.
I did.
You didn't have to.
I did.
You kind of just have to sit back and be like.
I know. Just watch everyone like fall by the wayside.
Everyone just getting injured on the field. You're just on the sidelines. Like, it's a tough world out there, man.
Landmines everywhere.
Did you have any like really bad dating experiences?
Or
do you just luck out in that department?
I was really picky.
Which isn't bad.
No, not at all.
As long as you're communicating.
Yeah, I think you should be picky. I never felt like I was like the serial dater. I had pretty like long-term relationships. I don't really have, again, this is before the days of like, even before the days of like Match.com and Hinge. Like I'd never had to deal with any of that. I think nowadays everyone has bad dating experiences because of the avenues that they're using and just the way it's changed so much. But I don't have any like horrendous. Yeah, I'm not nothing juicy in that front.
So you're just here being supportive for everybody else, just
laughing at their treachery.
Yeah. I have some friends who's just like, oh, first girl they dated or first guy they dated, married.
Yeah. That's scary to me too, though.
Yeah.
Like, I know that works for some people, but like, I say live a little. Like, get some life experience.
Yeah.
Maybe figure out like what you do. And so I shouldn't out him. I'm going to out him. My, I guess, stepbrother, you could say. My dad remarried, and I'm hungry too.
Half brother?
Yeah, half brother. There you go. Not stepbrother. Half brother. Well, no, not even half. Step. Because we're not.
Okay.
Yeah, it's step. He's young. He has a serious girlfriend, and he just thinks that it's like, this is the end all be all. And he's young. He's like 18.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he's like, no, this is it. Like, I didn't even explore out of state colleges. And I think that, to me, I'm always like, don't do this.
Yeah, because when you're 18, you think like, I know what I want, or like if you know what you want, you're like, this is how it's going to happen.
This is
how life's going to present it to me.
Right. He doesn't, and he has no interest in like. He's like, no, like she's great. And I'm like, okay.
Is she great?
I've only met her once.
Yeah.
Like, what is great at 18? Because you both want to not leave your hometown.
Oh, that's the worst.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's, where it's like, no, like, you have your whole life ahead of you. So, yeah, I did get married young, but I think that like, no matter where you are at in life or what you're doing, I think like 30s, wait till you're 30.
That's what I always tell people.
Yeah.
Being friends with a ton of, I feel like I'm saying this in a bad light. I'm a Christian too, but I have a lot of Christian friends that like, they need to be married by like 24.
Yeah, it's like, why?
Like, what's life after that?
Yeah.
Like, life continues on
Yeah.
for, like, at least another 60, 70 years.
Yeah. I think that's, like, a really good question for people, whether you're Christian, Mormon, like, what is the rush to be married
Yeah.
before you even know yourself?
What would you consider life experience? You said life experience.
Yeah, just being on your own.
Yeah.
Most people, not everyone, most people live at home until they're 18, 19, whether they go to college or not, right? Like, go figure out how to provide for yourself. Go figure out how to maintain a stable job. Go figure out how to do some laundry. Go figure out how to, live with someone else. Get some roommates. Get life experience. Go see some things.
Yeah.
I understand travel isn't for everyone. For me, it's a huge part. It's like, I find
How is travel not for everybody? I feel like if you have the money, you should travel.
But a lot of people don't like it because it's not, they're out of their comfort zone. Or just like, I like, nothing is better than America and I have no reason to, there's a lot of people like that. Like, why would I ever want to leave this? And I think that, I don't know, I think traveling shapes you. I think moving out of your hometown gives you perception, gives you just a different point of view. That's what I mean by life experience.
Yeah.
Like, go put yourself in situations where you're not super comfortable.
Yeah, go be a normal person.
Yeah, go learn
Be
how
interesting, so that when you do start dating, you have stuff to talk about.
Go learn how to be an adult.
Yeah.
So do you think that that's what it is? Do you think that a lot of men are like, I just want to find not a mom, but like someone to take care of me?
Yeah, or vice versa. Someone who sees someone and is very insecure and they're like, I could take care of them.
Yeah.
Makes them feel all macho.
Ooh. Interesting.
Why not have two machos who are very hard-headed and then see how that clashes?
And super stubborn.
Yeah, super stubborn.
Good luck, guys.
Two entrepreneurial drives.
Hey, you know who it worked for, though? But they waited. See? Sarah Blakely and Jesse.
Oh, yeah.
They're like both complete just animals in their professional careers.
Yep.
But they dated for a long time and they waited for a long time.
Yep.
I don't think
They were smart. They were both calculated.
Yeah. You have to be, I think. Calculated in a good way. Calculated sometimes gets a bad rap. But I think they knew what they wanted to do for themselves, and they figured that if this is going to work, then it'll work. We're going to make it work, whether it's today or a year or 3 years. And I think, to get back to what you were saying earlier, like, a lot of people don't want to work. They don't want to work in their professional life. They don't want to work in their relationships. So
The guy who owns this place has told me, he's like, no one in your generation wants to work for anything.
He's probably right. He's probably right. I have a friend who's going through a personal experience at work, and she hired some staff, and they think that they can just clock in at 9 and leave at 5, and that all the perks of the job are going to be there. And and the second that, things don't go their way or it gets uncomfortable, it's like, we're going to sit around and complain about it. And that's just like, not in what world?
Yeah. No, and it's tough too. And we'll wrap this up soon. You're hungry. I'm hungry.
Yeah.
It could be 9 o'clock for all I know.
I know.
I don't know in this soundproof room.
No, it's like 3, I think.
Okay, we're fine. I think. In this day and age, it's like, and I have this conversation with my parents, and I don't know if this is true or if this is just like me kind of like being around like a ton of entrepreneurs versus like people who do work like in the W-2 world, where I feel like the middle class is slowly starting to dwindle, and it's like you're either going to be working a job and making like barely enough to get by and pay your bills, or you're going to be insanely wealthy. So it's like you have to choose what you want to be.
The middle class is rapidly dwindling. Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe not like dwindling in the sense of like, okay.
No, a lot of people aren't.
But I would even say like the middle class, like what they're getting paid is not good at all compared to what it was even like 10 years ago.
No, absolutely. Like that whole trickle down theory that didn't work.
Nope.
It's not working.
Nope.
Wasn't going to work. They knew it wasn't going to work.
So it's like you really have to like think and go out of your way and really work on some things to figure it out, or else you're going to be very miserable, very uncomfortable.
Yeah. I mean, you can look at, if we want to get like industry specific, look at real estate. Look at how hard it is for people to own a home. Look at how you have massive investment companies buying up residential properties and just sitting on them.
Yep.
Like it's crazy. Like what is the average? I read some statistic the other day that was like the average first-time home buyer in America is like 38. Like,
Eesh.
Think about that.
38. That's like a whole lifetime for now.
But think about that.
You wouldn't even have a house at this point.
Right? Like we bought young, but like we were in a situation but a lot of people, some people don't want to, but most people can't. Most people can't anymore.
Yep.
Like gone are the days of getting married at, 20 and buying a house at 22 or what. It's just wild. That's wild.
Yep.
40 years old. You're almost 40 years old. The average first-time home buyer is almost 40 years old. And then this is always crazy to me. Like, why doesn't rent affect your credit score?
Yep.
Because they don't want it to.
Nope.
Like, if you can rent and be on time for 3 years, 5 years, 6 years, like that should affect your credit score.
Yeah.
I think that it would be a game changer for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That was my little tangent about real estate there.
No, I get it. I've even looked into real estate. I'm like, that could be an option. Everybody's like, don't get into real estate. I'm like, what can I get into?
Well, I think everyone needs to get into real estate because
you need to learn about it at some point.
Well, and I think it's like they're not making more dirt. And like, what? If you can do it, I say do it. If you can do it.
Yeah. It's like anything else. You got to know the right people. You got to have people who.
But I mean, it's just a good investment. Like you don't even have to live. I have a friend. They own 3 rental properties, and they rent their home because of where they want to live. But like their rental properties take care of their rent, and their rentals are almost paid off. It sounds a little off, but like if you can do it, even if it's a duplex, right? Mm-hmm. Even if it's just a condo. If you can have someone, if you have the money to go and put a down payment on a home and rent it out and let someone cover your mortgage and your rent, why would you not be doing that? Even if you don't live in the house. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, a lot of young people aren't able to do that. They're not set up to do that yet.
We weren't taught any of this stuff either.
No. But like PEMDAS.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Thank God I know what a parallelogram looks like. Man. I know. Taxes? No.
Nope. I do remember when they were like, this is how you write a check, but like, who needs that? I can't remember the last time I wrote a check.
Yep.
Not like from a checkbook? Are you kidding me?
Like my grandma?
Yeah. It was like Zelle. I'll sell you.
Yep. That's all it is.
Everything is
Zelle, Venmo.
Wire transfer.
Yep.
That's all you need.
Cash doesn't exist anymore.
No. They're printing it.
What do you got going on the rest of the day?
Kids, sports.
Being a mom,
dinner. I don't know. What do the kids call it now? Tradwife?
Is that what they say?
Apparently.
Jeez.
I know. Yeah. That's a whole nother tangent too. Like if you look at the analytics on who is watching that content, it's men.
Yep.
It's men. Like they know exactly what they're doing.
Yep.
Like, oh, here's my apron with my like unbuttoned blouse, and I'm making my husband dinner.
Yep.
No one's watching you make that roast mug. Like,
yep.
You look sweet, sweetheart, but like all those lonely dudes who are looking for a wife at home.
Oh yeah,
like,
there's a paper trail everywhere too. It's like you see it. It's like 98% men in America, 2% women.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I'll let you get after it. We'll do this again because we got a lot more to talk about.
So much more. Yeah.
It's probably the longest show I've done in a long time.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I feel like I try to keep it like within like 45 minutes to an hour.
Okay.
I feel like we stretched that.
Yeah, we did.
For sure.
We like dabbled on a lot of things.